And staying in the Premier League, we have some major breaking news this morning. Everton has been deducted 10 points for a breach of the Premier League's profitability and sustainability rules during the 2021-22 season. An independent commission issued the deduction, which drops Everton from 14th place in the Premier League standings to 19th place, ahead of last place Burnley on goal difference. Everton is one of 6 Premier League teams to never be relegated. For more on this breaking story, we now bring in CBS Sports correspondent Jeff Shreves from England. Jeff, welcome to Morning Footy. What can you tell us about Everton's point deduction?
Good morning to you, Ali. What I can tell you is that Everton themselves are absolutely stunned by this. I don't think they would have ever imagined that the punishment would be so severe. They've made it very clear indeed that they intend to appeal this as soon as possible and robustly as well. It all centres around a difference in opinion between the Premier League and the club themselves about basically how the accounts were recorded. Everton are citing monies lost in terms of COVID, in terms of the losses in going towards the new stadium at Bramley Dock, and also as well, they lost around about 200 million in their minds in terms of potential sponsorship deals when Russia invaded Ukraine. So it's a fairly complex case, but the actual sanction handed down by the Independent Commission has absolutely rocked not just Merseyside in terms of the decision, but I think there'll be other clubs as well looking on this very, very, shall we say, with a certain amount of caution, trepidation and concern as well. Of course, I'm referring to Manchester City and Chelsea, who have potential charges against them. And you shouldn't be too quick to say, OK, if Everton got docked 10 points, Manchester City, for instance, it's 115 cases against them, or individual points, if you like. It's completely different scenario. So we should be careful with that. But of course, a lot of people are saying, well, OK, if that's what Everton got for this one season, surely you're talking about multiple sanctions for other clubs, if indeed they're misdemeanors, as they are viewed, or are much more serious. So, but right now, the reality is Everton are going to appeal, but it is with immediate effect. So as you said, they are sat down there just above Burnley on goal difference, which is incredible.
Jeff, can you talk to me about the appeal process for this and sort of how long that could potentially take? Is that a decision that could come down in weeks, or are we talking months here for Everton?
Well, it's difficult to know because A, it's an independent commission. Secondly, this is the first Premier League club ever to be charged with regards to the PSR side of the accounting. So it's unprecedented, if you like. I would expect Everton to submit their appeal within weeks. And bear in mind how quickly this was dealt with. I do think they will get a decision relatively quickly. And once they go to appeal, that will be the end of it, once that decision is made. But in their minds right now, they've got to, well, they are going to have to accept they are sat where they are in the table. There's almost, if you like, the physical reality of where they're sat and where they could improve that position if their appeal was successful. Personally, I think it's possible that their appeal may have some grounds, if you like, for it's the severity of the points deduction, which I think they have found so completely unjust in their minds. They viewed it, in fact, their statement said it was wholly disproportionate and unjust. It's the severity of the 10 points. I think they're still end up with a points deduction. Whether or not it's 10 points is open, really, to conjecture.
Jeff, you mentioned about the potential precedent that this can set for Chelsea and specifically Manchester City, but you did mention that the situations are different. I think today, when we scroll through social media and we take these news for face value, when they're a little bit more complex to understand, what can you tell us about how these situations are different between Everton and Manchester City?
I think first and foremost, you've got to look at what drove this process, and that's the important part. This was the Premier League themselves. The league they actually pushed for a 12-point deduction. So they want the league want to protect the integrity surrounding the financial rules in every aspect of the Premier League. So they were they made their position very clear. They wanted Everton punished, and they wanted them punished severely, as we said, in an unprecedented manner. But once again, it goes down to the specifics of it and the mitigating circumstances. Manchester City have said they will defend their position vigorously. And when you hear 115 charges, it just sounds quite extraordinary that the league view that there are that many, over 100 cases of financial recording, which is not in line with their rules and regulations. Manchester City say, no, we can defend our position on this, absolutely. But as I said just now, because Manchester City, as part of their defence, they won't be citing losses on building a no stadium, and they also won't be citing potential losses in terms of a new sponsor because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. So they're and the Chelsea case is completely different as well. That's why I think it's a mistake. As you said, on social media right now, everybody's saying, oh, what about Manchester City? They're completely different. It doesn't mean that they won't be charged. However, I think what this does demonstrate, that if the Premier League feel that any club, for whatever reason, have broken the rules, they will push for the strongest possible sanctions. You just can't compare the actual charges.